ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter said last night that he is quote-unquote hearing that four-time NFL MVP and Super Bowl champion and recent Steelers quarterback target Aaron Rodgers is considering retirement over playing next season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Before we go over this concerning report from ESPN's Adam Schefter, make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we are keeping you up to date on all the latest happenings surrounding the Aaron Rodgers saga in Steelers Nation. And of course, if Rodgers decides to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, we will be going live for that. And also, if he decides to retire, we will also go live in that instance to talk about the future of the quarterback position here in Pittsburgh. So we'll start here with the quote from Adam Schefter last night. It says this when it comes to the Aaron Rodgers saga. I'm not convinced yet that Rodgers wants to play. Until I hear him say, I want to play, then I can tell you people are asking that question about whether he wants to play. Like, it's come up. I'm hearing he might not want to play. It shouldn't be that hard. You either want to play for the Steelers or you don't, right? What are you waiting for? I don't see many free agents who go on a visit to a team for 6 hours, think about something, and what's the question? What's the issue? They want you. You don't want them? Clearly, you have questions. So I will definitely say here, guys, that covering this entire saga, it's definitely frustrating. And I'm definitely anxious about whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to decide to become a Pittsburgh Steeler because, there's been multiple instances during this entire saga where I felt pretty sure that Aaron Rodgers was going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The first came on day one of NFL free agency when Adam Schefter himself tweeted out early in the morning that the Steelers were going to heavily pursue Aaron Rodgers. I thought that it was going to get done that day, especially when Justin Fields ended up going to the New York Jets. But then, fast forward another week or so, and the Minnesota Vikings get in on the conversation, but then Tom Pelissero reports that Minnesota has taken themselves out of the running. I thought after that, Aaron Rodgers was going to make a decision pretty quickly after that, but we continued to wait. And then Rodgers visited the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I thought after that he might sign that day on his visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but yet no contract. And then just a couple days ago, the New York Giants signed Russell Wilson, taking them out of the running for Aaron Rodgers, and yet it's still 2 days later, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have still not signed their starting quarterback. But what's kind of weird about this entire situation, guys, is that by all indications, Aaron Rodgers' meeting with the Pittsburgh Steelers went very, very well, and the Steelers feel very good about their chances of still landing Aaron Rodgers after that 6-hour meeting in Pittsburgh just last week. This is what Tom Pelissero had to say about the meeting and how it went between Rodgers and the Steelers. Aaron basically invited himself on a visit late last week. He was in the building for several hours. He watched tape with the coaches. This was a get-to-know-you type of meeting. Everything there sounds positive. I can tell you that Aaron has kept up a dialogue with various members of the organization, coaches, and other players. There's been communication like this is really going to be something he's going to do. And then Josina Anderson posted this earlier this week saying, I'm told that when Aaron Rodgers met with the Steelers brass and offensive coordinator Arthur Smith during Rodgers' visit, that the conversation was already, quote-unquote, beyond the pitch and really more about football. Smith and Rodgers watched film together and chatted about their thoughts. From Pittsburgh's viewpoint, I heard they walked away that day feeling really good about the vibe of the meeting, per a league source. So what's weird to me about Schefter saying that he's hearing that Rodgers may be considering retirement because he hasn't made a decision, really the only indication that we have gotten from Rodgers that he wants to retire is that he hasn't made that decision. He apparently told the New York Jets, I want to play next year. He's been doing his due diligence on all these football teams, including the Minnesota Vikings. He's been working out at his training facility in Malibu all offseason long, keeping himself in shape. This doesn't seem like somebody that wants to retire, but yet that question still looms large because he still hasn't signed a contract to be the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback. So the question is, and this is a very human question, and it's very fair to ask this question, what the heck is the holdup? Why is Aaron Rodgers taking so long to make this decision to become the next Steelers starting quarterback or to retire and walk away from the game of football? In just a second here, I'm going to be breaking down 5 potential reasons why he hasn't made a decision yet. But before we get into that, guys, go ahead and get your DK Metcalf Steelers jerseys in your closet today by going to chatsports.com chatsports.com/DK. When you click that link, chatsports.com/DK, and you make a purchase with our friends at Fanatics today, Fanatics is going to send us part of the proceeds. So that helps keep the lights on here at Steelers Talk, and it keeps our videos and our content free for you guys to enjoy every single day. Aaron Rodgers may or may not be a Pittsburgh Steeler, but we know DK Metcalf will be, so make sure you get those jerseys right now by going to chatsports.com/DK and getting your new DK Metcalf Steelers jersey in your closet today. So the first potential answer here for why Aaron Rodgers has not made a decision yet is he wants something more out of Pittsburgh that they haven't already offered him. Maybe he wants a second year on his contract. Maybe he wants more money, all right? Like maybe that's what he's looking for right now. But really, guys, this doesn't really seem to be the issue. Tom Pelissero from NFL Network had this to say about the structure of the Rodgers contract. This deal has been in place contract-wise for weeks. They discussed parameters. This is not going to be a financial issue at all for Aaron Rodgers. If it gets done, it's going to be a one-year deal, and he's going to be in there and taking a shot at age 41 to show that he can muster one more miraculous run. So I do think that a one-year deal, if it does end up being a one-year deal for Aaron Rodgers, probably means that the Pittsburgh Steelers will probably draft a quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft to see if they can land a long-term option. Now, the round is what will be interesting. Will they take like a Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck in round one? Will they trade up for a Shadur Sanders? Will they wait for the middle rounds and take like Jalen Milroe, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, somebody like that? I think that becomes more of the question here if it does become a one-year deal for Aaron Rodgers, because that is an extremely short-term deal for your starting quarterback, and they might want to have a younger quarterback enter the building as a potential long-term option. Second possible answer here for why Rodgers is kind of dragging his feet here is he doesn't really want to play in Pittsburgh. This is certainly something that could be possible. I mean, it certainly makes sense because it's like if he really wanted to play in Pittsburgh, why doesn't he just sign on to be the next Steelers starting quarterback? But, based on Rodgers' kind of the comments on Pittsburgh, on the Steelers, on head coach Mike Tomlin in the past, I would think that he would love to play here in Pittsburgh. He has talked about how he loves the city of Pittsburgh, how he loves the organization of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the history of this organization. He has talked time and time again his respect for head coach Mike Tomlin. And, I think because of all that, I think he would love to live in Pittsburgh for 1 or 2 years to finish out his NFL journey. But who knows? Aaron Rodgers is the only one that really knows the answer to that question. And maybe, he wants to play in Pittsburgh, but maybe there's other teams that he'd rather play for that are still in play, namely the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the two teams that are kind of still floating out there and could potentially be lurking are the San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. These are the two teams that, Colin Cowherd has said that if he was the 49ers, he would bring in Aaron Rodgers and then trade Brock Purdy. He said that earlier this week, and then there's been a lot of speculation as to whether or not the Minnesota Vikings are really all the way out on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes here. This is what Vikings GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah had to say yesterday on Aaron Rodgers. For me to sit here and say that anything is 100% forever, that's just not the job. We're responding to scenarios and information as it comes in, so obviously things can change. But right now, we're really happy with our quarterback room, and we're going to look to upgrade it in other ways other than Aaron Rodgers. So it certainly seems like the Minnesota Vikings, at least at this point in time, are not in on Aaron Rodgers, as Tom Pelissero reported last week. Now, another potential answer here, guys, is he's seriously considering retirement. And listen, man, this is a very heavy decision that Aaron Rodgers has to kind of weigh. But Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated has reported that Rodgers told the New York Jets weeks ago that he wants to play in 2025. And as we discussed earlier, he's been working out all offseason long at his training facility in Malibu. All right, he's been doing all the things that indicate he wants to play football. He had a 6-hour meeting talking ball with Steelers coaches, all right? He had conversations with Kevin O'Connell about potentially going to the Minnesota Vikings. He's doing his due diligence on these teams. And, plain and simply, guys, I just can't sugarcoat it. If Rodgers ends up retiring after the Steelers have waited this long on him, the Steelers are just absolutely effed. All right, they're just done. Like the other options out there on the open market, Kirk Cousins isn't going to get you anywhere. You could go out and trade for like Will Levis or Joe Milton, but those guys probably aren't getting you anywhere. Joe Flacco definitely isn't getting you anywhere. Like you are pretty much forced to go the NFL draft route if Aaron Rodgers retires, and unfortunately, young quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. So for a team in the Pittsburgh Steelers that's trying to win a Super Bowl in 2025, if you don't get Aaron Rodgers, I think your chances of winning one go down to practically zero. But I think that the most likely scenario here, guys, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think that the most likely answer to the question of why Aaron Rodgers has not signed on to be the next Steelers starting quarterback is because he wants time to be 100% sure that he wants to commit to another NFL season, man. Like, listen, it's a very heavy decision that he has to make here, guys, because, like, it's not just about deciding whether or not he wants to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's also, does he want to pick up his life? He's a very comfortable life in Malibu, where he's walking down the beach on his private beach every single night. Like, that's a pretty darn good life, man. And, there's a certain freedom that comes with being able to go on an ayahuasca or a darkness retreat whenever he wants, all right? Like, he's a very... he has his hobbies and he has the things that he likes. And if you commit to a full NFL season again, not only are you committing to, the physical toll that you're going to have to take on, but you're going to have to learn and build chemistry with a new offense and new receiving weapons and DK Metcalf and George Pickens. That's going to take a lot of work and effort. He also has to buy a new house and a new place to live in Pittsburgh. He has to acclimate himself to a new area of the country. And, it's a lot to really commit to. And I think Aaron Rodgers just really wants to make sure that this is what he wants to do. All the indications are he wants to be a Steeler, and he's eventually going to be a Steeler. But, I think he understands the weight of this decision, and, he understands that this is a really, really big commitment that he's going to have to make at 41 years of age if he decides to do it. So if he's going to dive in and he's going to sign this contract, he wants to be 100% sure that this is really what he wants to do. I think at the end of the day here, guys, he is going to make that decision, and he will be a Pittsburgh Steeler at the end of the day. And I do think that we get an answer sometime soon. Now, I can't guarantee you it's going to be today, but I think within the next week or so, we should get an answer, simply because Aaron Rodgers' style of offense and the way that he wants to play requires a lot of communication and chemistry with his wide receivers, because he makes a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage, a lot of hand signals, a lot of audibles, all that different stuff, and everybody's going to have to be on the same page for this to work in Pittsburgh. So if Aaron Rodgers wants this thing to work here with the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward, I think that the earlier he can sign this contract and start building that chemistry up with these Steelers wide receivers, the better. So it doesn't really make sense to wait so long into the offseason to make a decision. This is also why I think that the quote-unquote wait-and-see strategy is dumb for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it's smart for Rodgers to wait until somebody gets hurt in training camp, because he has a very small window to build chemistry and that communication between him, the offensive coordinator, and, of course, the receiving weapons. So all I can say to you guys here right now is nobody really knows when Rodgers is going to make this decision. Hopefully it's soon, and hopefully it ends up being the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I had to guess right now, I do think it'll be soon, and I do think the Steelers will be the choice. I do not think he's going to choose retirement. But it certainly seems like Rodgers is weighing kind of the commitment that's going to take to move to a new city, join the Pittsburgh Steelers, and really commit to trying and being a Super Bowl champion with this football team this year. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will Aaron Rodgers be a Steeler this year? Give me a yes or a no. Right now it certainly seems like Steelers or retirement for Rodgers. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And don't forget to click that subscribe button. Coop and I, we are going to be going live on Steelers Talk Live later this evening, starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And, of course, we get more breaking news on Rodgers. We'll get that to you as soon as it comes out. So until later today, guys, here we go, Steelers.